Hi everybody, it's Michelle here at Sololiving Canada, coming to you from my snowy garden. And I thought it would be fun to do a garden video today, just to get out of the house. We've been getting a lot of snow here. And my topic today is, can you really live on $3,000 a month in Ontario, Canada? Because I am sick and tired of getting online and finding all of these online websites that give a quick budget and say it's doable. But in their budgets, they have left out half of the things that make for a normal life. So ultimately, nobody lives like that. You know, they've got maybe 9 things on the budget when normally there's a lot more than that. So I thought I would myself create something to show what is a more realistic estimate, particularly for people who are thinking of relocating here. I feel very bad for somebody who might be coming from another country and trying to decide whether they can live on $3,000 a month in a small city in Ontario and think it's doable. And ultimately, if you live like a starving student and you don't have any kind of life going at all, and you don't participate in any of the normal things that average middle class people would participate in, maybe you could get by. But what kind of, enjoyment are you going to have? So, it's up to you. Only you know the type of lifestyle you live. But I'm going to give you some of a more realistic rundown than what I see on the online myself. One of the first things, of course, and big one, is your shelter, right? And I am seeing all kinds of postings that say that you can get an apartment for $1,600 a month. Really? No, you can't. You can't get an apartment for $1,600 a month unless you're living in a basement apartment and shared living. That's not going to happen. It's generally, you should factor in about $2,000 a month. And another reason why it's a good idea to factor in $2,000 a month is because even if they offer it to you for $1,900 a month, and I'm talking a one bedroom rental, even if they offer it to you for $1,900 a month, by next year it's going to be $2,000. So if you don't have the money in your budget for that, then you're going to be out of luck in another year. So I would think it's more realistic to budget between $2,000 and $2,200, because you almost always have to pay for parking as well. So I would factor that in, and just, that gives you a little bit of a cushion. Unless, of course, you're prepared to rent a basement apartment. And then, often I want to point out too that a lot of the times these budgets leave out a huge amount of things, and I'm going to give you a list. I've written them down here. These are the things that I don't see in any budget. Your household supplies. They give you a grocery budget, but a lot of the stuff that you buy at the grocery store aren't groceries and are still have to be factored in somewhere, but I haven't seen them factored in anywhere. And here's my list. Like your laundry detergent and your toilet paper and paper towel and your light bulbs. The salt that you put down on the walk because it's icy and you don't want your guests to be wiping out on it, or you yourself when you step out in the morning in the winter, you don't want to go sliding and tear a groin muscle or something, right? So, and that salt's getting expensive. Shampoo's ridiculous now. Other things like vitamins are never factored in, but if you're in your 50s and 60s, you might be taking in vitamins. You might be getting your vitamin D, because we don't get vitamin D from the sun here, not except in summer. So, you might not, and especially if you're not drinking vitamin D fortified, beverages or anything like that, right? You might be getting vitamin D. You might be taking omega-3 tablets. You're probably taking, I shouldn't say probably, but I take a magnesium supplement. I take, a bunch of other supplements too. So there's no supplements. There's no vitamins or supplements added into any of those budgets. And so, there's a lot of things that are left out of the budget. Pet care. I never see anything for pet care, but a large percentage of people in Canada have pets. And you might have gotten your pet when you were a little more flush. thinking that you would always have the money to afford your pet. And now that the cost of living is going so high, your pets are starting to cost you more money than realistically you should be putting out. But most people aren't going to give away their pets. For me, my pet is the most important thing to me outside of my kids. And I mean, especially if you live solo, your pet brings so much to you so that you're not coming home to an empty house at night. Most people will do what they can to cut in lots of different categories before they have to give their pet away. But I don't often see a pet included in a budget. And a pet will run you maybe about $100 a month if you're also, factoring in the vet visit, even though the vet visit might only be once a year. Vets are expensive now. So, and if you have any kind of medicine or anything you have to buy for your pet. So what I do is I break that up over the month. So I allocate $100 a month to my cat, even though her litter and her food aren't technically costing me $100 a month, but then I'm building in a little bit of a savings so that when I go once a year to the vet, I have the money to pay for it. The other thing that I never see factored in are prescriptions, at the cost of prescriptions for anything, and dental care. And most people would like to go see a dentist from time to time. If you want to stay healthy, you will definitely want to keep on top of the health of your teeth. If you are in, the CDCP, they don't factor in enough cleanings, and their cleanings are only 2 units, which for most dentists do 3 units of cleaning. And so you end up being out of pocket when you go to the dentist, even if you are covered by some kind of a dental plan. And then if you take on medical benefits from your work, a lot, like once you're retired, most people don't buy into the dental because it is so expensive and it doesn't cover that much, and you still end up having to pay for 50%, and they disallow a whole bunch of procedures. Even the CDCP, it's fairly limited in what it covers. And if your dentist charges more for something that the CDCP program allows for, you're going to be out of pocket. So for me, I put some money aside every month for the dentist. And then, I see really unrealistic budgets that are set aside for entertainment. Like, I saw this morning a budget. I asked ChatGPT about it. I told it it's, what city in Ontario. And I don't go out to dinners a month, but if I did, and it said $60, which would be $30. Like, I don't know how many restaurants you could go to. And I'm not talking fine dining here. I'm just talking like your average kind of, roadhouse. You're not going to pay $30 for a dinner if you have tax and tip. And when I go out for dinner, I order water. I don't order any kind of special drink. I order water. I don't order an appetizer. I try to look on the menu for like almost the cheapest thing on the menu. I'm not getting away with $30. $30 costs you 20 just to go to Wendy's. It's going to cost you more than that. It's probably going to be closer to 60, maybe 50. But if you're going out with friends, and that's the hard part too, you go out with friends, like a lot of my friends are still working, and they're ordering drinks, they're ordering appetizers, they're planned to be there for hours, so they're having leisurely time with their appetizers, and I haven't ordered an appetizer, so I'm sitting around waiting. And then, some of them will go in on desserts, but, their bills are way higher, almost double what my bills are. But at the same time, you don't want it to be obvious how little you're ordering, because it starts to get uncomfortable. They start to feel uncomfortable for, they kind of notice the distinction, and, they feel awkward, and then it's no fun, right? And if you are liking my videos and finding anything of value in them, if you wouldn't mind clicking like and subscribing to my videos, that would really help me. I started these in late summer, and I'm just getting going, and I know it takes a long time to get some momentum going, but I'd really appreciate it if you would click like and subscribe to help me on my way. So let's look at some. Oh yeah, and the other thing is car repairs, right? In regular budgets online, they don't factor in car repairs. Well, if you're driving an older car, you're going to have car repairs for sure. And if you're driving a newer car, you're probably going to have financing because newer cars cost, 40 grand. I don't think that people have 40 grand just to put cash down. So most people are having financing for that. So, they don't even factor that in. And I remember reading a financial expert say, and this is years ago, to always factor in 500 a month for repairs or for financing. It's probably more now. I think that I saw something online the other day that said the average monthly financing cost that people have here in Canada is 65 or $650 a month. Mine's a little lower than that. Mine's 536, but I did have some money to put down. So let's look at real prices for a small city in Ontario, Canada in 2025. And let's be more realistic so that you can see whether or not you actually would be able to afford to live here. So I'm going to give you some prices up here on the screen. You're going to see them come up here. A one-bedroom apartment is going to be between $2,000 and $2,200. Maybe you could get away with $1,500 if you're in a basement apartment, $1,600. I'm not sure. Online, they will tell you that you don't usually pay for utilities in a basement apartment. That's not true. Landlords are not going to pay your hydro bill because they can't predict how much hydro you're going to run. So they get a second line into their homes. You will not have to pay for your water because they don't have a way to separate water between the upstairs and the downstairs, but they will definitely have you bring in your own hydro. So, you'll pay for your hydro. You won't pay for your gas heat probably either. So, think of that. Your transportation, if you have a vehicle, it's going to be $800 or $900 a month between your car financing or the money you're setting aside for repairs. And even if your car is in excellent working order in Canada, you still have snow tires twice a year. You're going to have to flip your snow tires and every 4 years buy new snow tires, and they're getting expensive. So your gas, I just tooting around in a small city, and maybe once a month I go out of town. And between my insurance and I know my insurance is lower than most because of my age, so I'm paying less in insurance. But between insurance, modest gas, and my car financing, my car costs me about $900 a month. So if your car is already costing you $900 a month, how could you possibly live on $3,000 with your whole other rest of your life to pay for? You can't. And in my city, it isn't realistic to think you're going to get around in city transit. It's not designed well, and it's not really realistic for the lifestyle that you're leading when you're in your 50s and 60s. It's not realistic. You'd end up probably taking a lot of Ubers. And then, of course, food. And I see a lot of food budgets that say $300 to $350 a month. I don't know where they're shopping because I'm really good at looking at the discounts. I go out most days. I pass places, less expensive places to buy food just naturally on my route. So I am retired, so I can take the time to stop into places. I'm always looking for the deals. I rarely pay full price for things, and I can't get a food budget for $350. No way. My food budget is generally around $550, and that's if I'm not including all of the things that I pick up at the grocery store that isn't something I could eat, like I said, like the laundry detergent and, cleaners and all those extra things that you buy at the grocery store generally, or the hardware store. But, I can't get away with $350 a month. No way. It's $550 a month. And then, yeah, so if I factor in all of those things extras that are not food but kind of don't fit in anywhere else in the budget, I would say that it's more about $700 a month. and some months $7.50 because, and this is not something you need to do, but it does add to my cost. I do buy two expensive things. One of them is the protein powder that I buy to put in my smoothie shakes, and that's expensive. And the other one are the vitamins, and I probably take more vitamins than maybe other people. So yeah, that adds up. So I wouldn't, you don't need to count that, but I do. So for me, my food budget's more around 700, 750. Maybe, yours will be cheaper and you can get away with 600, maybe 650. I mean, yeah, 600 total, maybe. Let's look at utilities next. I live in a small 2-bedroom bungalow and I have a very efficient heating system. I have radiant heat floors that are heated with natural gas and a boiler, and my heating bills are just under 100. They're around somewhere in the 80 to 90 range. And then that flips out in the summer and I don't have heating, but then I have air conditioning, right? My hydro is generally around $80 or $90 a month as well. My water, the price of water has gone up really high, so my water is generally around $80 a month. It never used to be. It used to be in the 50s, and I haven't changed anything, and I hardly ever do laundry. I shouldn't say hardly ever, but once every week and a half or so. So there's your water. And then, cell phone and internet. And I don't have all the streaming services. I just split a Prime membership with my daughter. So I just have, the half of the cost of Prime for, so that we can have Prime as a streaming service. But, just my internet and my cell phone is 170 something a month. And the reason why it's that much is because right now I'm paying off for a 1-year-old phone that I'm slowly paying off for. But even when that's done, it'll be $120 once my internet and my cell phone plus my taxes. It'll be $120 a month. And then other normal expenses, entertainment, at just going to a movie, or just every once in a blue moon going and doing something with friends. Entertainment's probably maybe $100 a month. And even though I'm retired now and I don't need to buy that many clothes, things still need to be replaced. Eventually your clothes wear out. Eventually your winter coat wears out. Your winter boots start leaking. Clothing does need to be replaced. So I try to put aside about $100 a month aside. And then, that way I have money to dip into when I do need to replace something or buy something for some kind of special function or whatever. And then hair, like I never see in a budget anything allotted to hair. Well, unless you're cutting your own hair, you do every few months have to go get your hair cut, and try and find a place. Like the cheapest one I could find was the one I just did recently at $70 just for a simple basic cut. $70 plus tip. I know a friend who goes to the college where the college students are learning to cut hair, and she says it's cheaper there, but I don't want to do that. So at least it's an option for you. A gift fund. Are you honestly never in your entire life going to buy a gift for someone? If you're in your 50s to 60s and have a family, are you never for the rest of your life going to buy a birthday gift for one of your kids? Or, if they have a special time in their life, like something special celebration, you're never going to buy them a gift again? Are you never going to buy anything for your grandkids if you have grandkids? That's totally unrealistic. So I factor my gift fund. It's generally about $75 a month I put aside. So all year long, I'm putting aside that amount. And then when I need to buy a gift, I have money to access. But I usually end up going a little bit over at Christmas, even though, I don't buy a lot at Christmas at all, hardly ever, but just the cost of things are just getting higher, right? And in that gift fund, I also tap into, if there's any money extra for that, I'll tap into any kind of some of the things like that you had to buy around that celebration, like a cake. Like cakes now, if you buy a cake just for 8 people to share, that's like $40, $30. It's expensive. So just, I usually use that fund too to tap into that kind of thing and gift wrap. The other thing that's never in a budget is home insurance. Are you honestly not going to have home insurance? And if you're renting an apartment, a lot of places now insist that you have tenant insurance. So tenant insurance around $50 a month, maybe 60 now. I don't know. I haven't checked it in a while. Um, but your home insurance, well, I have a tiny, tiny home, and my home insurance is $120 a month. No, is it? No, it's about $100 a month. But if you have a bigger home than that, you're going to be paying more than that in home insurance. Also, if you own a home, people say, oh, well, if you live in a home, it doesn't cost you as much as to rent. Yeah, it does. I mean, sure, I'm not paying a rental fee. That's all in one shot. That's $2 grand a month. But I still have my property taxes, and my tiny little place is almost 400 a month now. If you're living in a bigger home, which most people would be, it's going to be maybe 600 a month, maybe even more. Um, but on top of that, you have your property tax, you have your home insurance, then you have to put aside a maintenance fund. You can't live in a home and never take care of it. You're going to have fences that break and need to be repaired, big old trees that are dangerously, partially dead, and you're going to have to pay for an arborist to come and take that tree down. You're going to have to take care of your property. You're going to have things go down in the house, different systems that go down in the house. You're going to have, you know, um, things like, I'm trying to think, that things that break. I'm not coming with it. But you cannot move into a house and then plan never to put any money towards general maintenance of the home. So for me, I put aside about 400 a month. I think it's 350 a month in a maintenance fund, and at least I have some money to put towards something that might be an expensive repair, like your air conditioning or your heating or, plumbing. Those are all really expensive. A roof every once in a while needs to be repaired or completely redone. Um, you're going to have maintenance around the exterior of your home. For me personally, living alone and in my 60s and not being as strong as I used to be, and living in the snow belt, I do pay for a snow clearing service. And so, you are going to have those repairs that have to happen in your home. So let's look at the numbers up here. I've got this whole budget that I think is far more realistic. And yes, there is a little bit of room to trim the fat if I was absolutely in dire straits, for sure. I'm not saying that I am the most frugal person living here in the city and that there is no fat to trim off, but I am living a very modest, no frills life. And there are things that I do to avoid costs now that I would not have done in the past and that I'm a little embarrassed for. Everybody pitches in on a gift, and I have to make up an excuse why I'll be going in on something different, but it's really because what everybody's decided to contribute, I can't afford. Or, I just sign a card and send a card for something rather than throwing in some extra money. I never would have done that before. If everybody was throwing money in, I would throw money in too. But there's no money in the budget for that. I can't afford to do that. Or if everybody's coming together and, people are dividing up the weeks for who's going to bring food, the food I bring is going to be pretty economical and maybe a bit of a more of a no frills week than other weeks where other people are bringing things, and I'm looking, knowing the cost of things, I'm looking at what they brought and thinking, wow, like that must have cost them $40 to bring. I can't afford that. Like I'm looking for $15. So I cut corners all over the place. I am not living an extravagant life. Right now, I put no money aside for vacation. And when people bring up the idea of a vacation, I just shut them down right away. And I just say vacation isn't in the cards for me right now. Down the road, it will be again, but right now it is not. So, if you are checking out this video saying, well, I don't know, like it sounds like she has some things in her budget where she could cut and maybe I could get away with 3,000 a month, maybe you can, but I think you will be living really close to the bone. Not that fun of a lifestyle. So there you have it. I'm sorry if it sounds depressing. I don't mean for it to be. I just want people to be more realistic about what they should include in their budget to see whether they can afford to live. Because if you make a budget based on what you see online these days and then you get out there once you're here and you realize you can't survive on 3,000 a month, you're going to be in hot water. And I don't want you to be. I want you to kind of come in with eyes open. If you live in a shared living situation or a basement apartment with no car and not much extraneous expenses for fun and entertainment, maybe you can survive on around $3,000 a month. But if you want to have any kind of, kind of average life, even, cutting costs, but still having a little room for fun, and maybe you want to join a gym, or maybe you like to play a sport and you need to sign up for that sport each year and pay a bit of an entry fee, just even the simplest things like that that just make life a little bit more fun living. You're going to need to be, and if you have a car, you're going to need upwards of close to 4,000 a month instead of 3,000 a month, maybe 3,800, but it's going to be up there. And then if you are a homeowner, you own a car and you live in a bigger place, 3 bedroom, if you like to go on vacation once a year, and if you like to, maybe if you're a woman, if you like to get your nails done or have any kind of skincare routine or wear makeup, get your hair done. Maybe you might have little expenses around your hair if you're colored or anything like that. Like, even just, these are all like just simple middle class things. But, if you want to do any of that kind of stuff and you're not sharing your living situation, you're going to be closer to 5,000 a month. So, I just want people to be really realistic. I don't want anybody to be blown away by, what they were told it would cost to live here and then get here and then realize that they're starting to think about going to the food bank, or they're starting to sell their clothes off their back and just, trying to figure out how they're going to pay for the next month ahead of them. Because I think 3,000 a month is way too low now. Way too low. Like, shoot for 4,000 a month. And I know that's disappointing, but don't forget too that whatever the costs are this year, it's not going to stay that way. So even if you could afford to live just carefully live on how much you've got now this year, next year it's going to be more. The year after that it's going up. The year after that it's going up. It's not going to stop going up. Maybe it's time to think about, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. Anyway, that's my rant today about the unrealistic prices and budgets that you see online and how they're misleading everybody. I know that there are some expenses I might incur that others won't, but there's also things they would incur that I won't, and I live pretty frugally. So this is Michelle at Solo in Canada, Musings from Midlife. Please check out my blog too by the same name. I write complimentary articles, but not everything I put on YouTube. I don't just rewrite as an article. So if you enjoy reading blog articles, please check that out. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, whether you're in the sunshine or the snow like I am. And we'll see you soon.